Welcome to another workshop video from Truro University. We're excited to cover today's workshop that's gonna cover the rise of the connectivist paradigm in the era of AI. Please welcome Dr. Janelle Hodges, who will be hosting today's workshop video.
Welcome. We're so glad that everybody is here. We're excited to be presenting to you tonight. And we're going to go ahead and get started because in true Janelle and Hani fashion, we have a lot to cover in our 1 hour. I am Dr. Janelle Hodges, and my co-presenter tonight is Dr. Hani Tessler. I'm an instructional design specialist by background. My PhD is in instructional design, and I am the director of instructional design and digital technology or digital innovation. And so here, I'm going to share my screen. We'll get started. So tonight we are going to get started with, and we're going to talk about embracing the future, the rise of the constructivist paradigm in the era of AI. So here is us. This is us, and we have been presenting and about this area, and we are very excited about all of the different things. And like I said, I am from instructional design. That's my background. One of the really cool things about me is I come from the area of education. I started there, and I grew up and cut my teeth in higher education, and then I moved into the world of corporate education and moved into corporate training and went into the other world there, I guess, and went into healthcare and business, and I worked in the military area. And so I've kind of had the luck of getting to do it all and see how it works in all of these different areas. And then I came back into higher education and started working with trainers there. And now I get to see how AI and all of this digital innovation is really changing how we are learning and what we are learning and how we are doing what we are doing in our everyday lives and how we can apply that to what we want to do when we grow up and when we leave our great world of higher education, how we can make those skills transfer to how we want to behave as a professional. So, Hani, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Connie Tessler. I serve as Vice Provost of Truro University, Illinois, among the several things that I do at Truro. And I'm really Janelle's enabler. I brought on Janelle to our cybersecurity program. We've been working a lot on presenting and talking about AI and learning and connectivism. There's a lot here to unpack, and so I'm going to really let Janelle lead this because this is her area of expertise, and I'll jump in when I just want to add my 2 cents to something that she mentioned.
Yes, my enabler. I love it. Okay, so here's our objectives. You always have to kind of have a path so that you can stray from it, I kind of think. So this is where we're going to try and go from. So we're going to start off looking at where we've been. We're going to start with the history and the evolution of learning theory. When we talk about education, know that we are not really just talking, we're not talking K-12. When I think about education, we are thinking about education and training and learning in institutions all the way up through businesses and the military and healthcare. I know that when you think education, you think, I'm going to get that degree and I'm never going to have to learn anything ever again. Trust me, I have a PhD and I'm trying really hard to get a certificate right now. So you are always going to be forever learning. Okay, so training and education theory, all of that goes on forever. I spend most of my days training executives. So we're going to look at how the evolution of learning and training and all of those theories. Then we're going to explore the current uses of AI and all of the things, what it looks like now. Then we're going to look at what does it look like in the future? How is it going to look in 5 years, in 10 years? What could it look like maybe tomorrow? So, and then we're going to kind of engage with how can we take our skill set that we have right now that we might use on Saturday and maybe turn it into a business skill set that we could use on Monday. All right, so where have we been? Anybody remember education like this? This is how it used to look. Shh, don't tell anybody if your classroom really looks like this now. Okay. This is quote unquote how it used to look. This is what we say education used to be. It's not supposed to look like this anymore, but this is where we were when we talk about education. This is what communication used to be. This is how people used to, when you called somebody, this was the telephone board, and you would pick up your phone, usually like in the kitchen. The houses had one phone, and you'd pick up the phone and you'd call the operator and you'd say, hey, I want to be connected to, and they would go over and move the switches. And that's how we were connected to other people, like your neighbor or the lady on the other farm or whatever, right? So that was, we thought we were super cool. We were connected to people. This was social. This is how we hung out. This is what, when we said we were going to socialize, this was it. We were socially networking right here, y'all. They're on a merry-go-round. Those are full-grown adults hanging out on a merry-go-round, and they were socially networking. Could you imagine going and rubbing elbows and being like, hey, check it out. We're trying to talk and make friends on a merry-go-round. That isn't quite how socially networking looks now anymore. So education has come a long way. Communication has come a long way. Socializing has come a long way. This isn't really what it looks like anymore. Learning theory and training and education, all of those pedagogical foundations have moved forward too, right? So if we think about the underpinnings of our learning theory, they've moved forward too. So we start off in behaviorism. So we're here, and we probably have thought about Skinner and Pavlov, and they thought, learning is a behavior that's changed, right? You have to change a behavior. That's what learning is. So then you have cognitivism, Piaget, Bruner, those are those big names. Learning is just a mental process. You change something in your mind. You don't have to see a change as long as the mind is changed. That's what cognitivism, at the root of it. That's the base. Then you have constructivism, and that's your Vygotsky. Gotta love Vygotsky. I always thought that'd be a great name for a pet. But anyway, Vygotsky, okay? And that's really the idea of constructing knowledge. That's where we really hang out. I still love constructivism, y'all. Constructivism, we're building knowledge. You're building on prior knowledge. That's kind of where we all feel like we've been. We're sitting on, you're building on, you activate that prior knowledge, and you're probably thinking, oh, I hear that. That's making sense. I remember that. But guys, we're not really there anymore, okay? Because we're moving forward, and that's what I'm trying to tell you, is we're moving into that connectivism, where learning is a connection of networks. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is connectivism? So remember these names. These are the guys who are talking about it, right? Connectivism is the idea there's so much knowledge, there's so much information out there. You're not going to know it all. You're going to instead have networks and knowledge of how to work and connect to all of the different networks and know where to go and get the knowledge. Understand what is the right connection, be able to cycle through the knowledge or the networks and be able to know the good knowledge versus the bad knowledge. It's connecting to the right networks in the right ways. So connectivism is building your network of knowledge. As we move into connectivism, if you think about it, connectivism was there before technology. If you were in your on-ground classroom and you got into a group and everybody learned a part of something, and then you came together and y'all taught it to each other, that was connectivism on a very small scale. But now we have technology comes into play, and you want to find out what is the best goalie gloves. You can go online and type in, and it will give you 10,000 results, right? And suddenly you now know this whole giant network tells you the very best goalie gloves, or, where can you find XYZ? And suddenly everybody has an opinion of where you can find that. Oh, well, no, it's there in Spain. There it is. We found it. But that is, you're going to the network, this giant network. It's all connecting. Me, myself, I would not have known that, right? My brain doesn't have all of that information. There's no way, there's too much knowledge for me to know that. So technology has opened up my network source. Before, my network consisted of the small few people who live close to me, or the people that I've met or the people that I know. But now with technology, I can go on and I can connect with different people on message boards and blogs. I mean, Google, all of these different things. So then we start thinking, okay, how does this work in training? How does this work, or how does this look in education? And so where does this fit as we move into higher education, in businesses, in healthcare, in the military? What are they doing with this? Well, suddenly education is no longer this stagnant thing where you have to sign up and you go and you sit in a classroom and you sit in the rows and you have the one person sitting in front. So we have MOOCs and we have open access and we have all of these things where huge networks of people are starting to teach other giant networks of people, and we start having a lot more open educational resources happening. But that creates a challenge, right? It limits personalization. If you were ever in one of those MOOCs and there's 2,000 students in there, that's pretty hard to, for that instructor has no idea who you are. Let's be honest. You are like student number, 2471 or something like that. And the feedback in that class is like nothingness. It's like, good job, good job, good job, good job. It's not personalized. There is very little, there's a lot of heavy load on that instructor because they're just trying to get through to all of those people. Not only that, there's not a checks and balances of, does that person really know what they're talking about? Think about when you go to Google and you type something in, how much do you have to dig through before you find the good information versus the bad information? You have to cycle through all of that, right? So there's a lot of challenges to just connectivism in its purest, simplest form, right? Because you have to build that network. You have to understand what is the good pieces and what is the bad. You have to use your judgment and clean through that. If you're just typing it out there, think before AI, right? This is before AI gets involved. Well, so let's parking lot our constructivism, even though that's where learning is happening right now, right? So we're going to parking lot it for a second and let's go look at AI. Right now, AI, everyone's like, oh my gosh, AI is brand new in education. No, AI is not brand new in education. AI has been coming into education in training and in businesses, and we've been using AI in things for a very long time. So we had rules-based systems in ITS way back in the 70s and 80s, and you're going, wait, what is she talking about? If you think about it, anytime you took one of those tests that if you got the right answer, it moved you forward, or you got the wrong answer and it gave you another kind of a repeat question, that was the beginnings of AI. It started going, oh, we're going to kind of do a responsive exam. The computer started thinking, right? And so we started way back then having some beginnings of that responsive pieces, right? And then we started seeing learner analytics and adaptive learning coming in the early 2000s. So now, if you go out of higher education and you go into business training and you go into HRs and you go into some of these places where they're in the hospitals or they're in the military areas, and we're using generative AI and we're using LMSs, they are using AI as a trainer for that just-in-time training because they have to do it as quickly as they can to keep training happening. So where are we now? Perfect segue, because that's what I'm about to tell you. It's exploding all over the place. AI is happening with connectivism. So how is it working? Why is it working? What are we using it for? In training right now, AI and connectivism are coming together and creating automated feedback on assignments. So how does that work? Well, it can come in and it can help you figure out what we can say that's actually real feedback. It's going and it's analyzing all of the things, and it's actually giving pretty good feedback. It's helping with facilitating discussions. It's personalizing different resources. It's providing frequently asked questions bots. This is doing some of the pieces so that the faculty or the trainers can do other pieces. We are no way replacing trainers. Human-based learning and humans are still important. It's simply assisting. So how does that work? Well, adaptive learning platforms. Now, again, we have academics that they are doing this, but this is also, we're talking in the business world and in the outside world too. I understand not everybody here is going into education, but we're looking at what people are going to be doing as administrators, as educators, as going into all of these different fields, these are different platforms that can support AI and connectivism. So the different allow that data-informed scaffolding and pacing for your learners. Learners go at different paces. We don't all go module by module by module, and we are going to learn it the same way. How do we figure out what that pacing is? How do we know how that learner is doing? So we can use that adaptive learning pacing based on the learner instead of based on, hey, we're going to go because this is what our calendar tells us we're going to go. Intelligent tutoring systems, this helps with, there's not enough tutors and trainers out there in certain specialized areas to help everybody who needs that area, especially in certain areas of cybersecurity, certain areas of healthcare, certain areas of military pieces. So they are using these different pieces to help get their people trained to close gaps that we need. And so this helps mimic that tutoring and that just-in-time training element that is so essential. Content curators, this allows for these pieces to come in, and it works with explaining tools, saving time on supporting those diverse things. This is, again, we're not replacing the higher order thinking pieces. This is more of the lower level thinking pieces of what we do. So yes, it's coming up with helping with slide decks or generating videos, but then it's also going to come in, and you as a trainer or you as the person is going to need to bring in that human element. Feedback for assessments. AI and connectivism work here, or AI works here with automated grading, again, feedback, and then analytic for early intervention. Micro learning, just-in-time learning modules, and curating resources. Collaboration tools. We find AI coming out in training here for whether in all of the different fields, they have started using AI in all of their collaboration areas and their collaborative tools for real-time distributed learning communities, as well as brainstorming documents. We find AI to be popping up there. One of the biggest pieces here is it gets the conversation going. A lot of times it's really hard to start with a blank sheet of paper. It's hard to come in and go, okay, we're gonna have ideas. Anybody have any? Let's all look at this blank sheet of paper. And nobody has any. Or to put an idea out there and then have people go, oh, I don't like your idea. Let's rip your idea up, and then nothing. But if AI puts an idea out there, then it's really easy to rip it up and be like, oh, well, we don't like this and we don't like that, and let's tear that up, because then it's not yours. And so it's easier to start with something and go from there. And so it works really great for a team, like a team of marketers or a team of project designers or a team of, I've seen, different art groups or different, go project proposal teams. And so they can use AI as a place to start, because then the AI does the lower level thinking, it fills in the little boxes, and then they can go in and go, you know what, my human judgment, my human brain knows I'm going to pull this up to the higher level thinking in my field because I know what it needs. All right, so how do these two? We've talked about what constructivist is, and we've talked about what AI is. And now we know what AI is doing in training, and we know how constructivists are like connecting everybody together. So how are they kind of smashing it all together? That kind of leads us into where we are all going. And some of this is curating already. And it's really funny because Hani and I have worked on this presentation throughout the semester. And as we were building it started getting outdated. And the faster I built it, the faster it got outdated. And I met with a colleague today, and I'm building a course, and I told him, I said, I know that as I build this course in AI, by the time I teach it in the fall, it will be outdated. Like, I'm going to have to update it as I teach it, because AI and connectivism is just growing so rapidly that I feel like my future section of this is probably already the present section of this. So forgive me if it's already happening. So anyway, AI curates learning skill across all of the different stages. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, when we think what's happening in the future, the learners right now that we're going to have in higher education in the future are in elementary school. They are already doing things with AI that I have no idea how to do. They are asking, they don't think about questions. They go and ask instantly. Siri sits on my countertop and my kids walk by and ask it random questions. Like, how many different types of ants are in Africa? My kids know that. I would never have thought to ask that, but my kids have asked Suri that on my kitchen counter, and so they don't need to know all of those things because they just go and ask. They have so much information at the tips of their fingers all of the time. That generation is not only coming into our institutions as instructors and faculty, their next step will be fighting us for jobs and going into the job market. And so when they're going to be so task oriented, they're going to be the next employee group, right? And so they right now are learning teamwork and learning all of these things and critical thinking skills like never seen before because their teammate is this super brain that can answer anything and can produce information at a huge rate. And then they're working with people and AI, and it's their connectivism is just on point. So then they integrate this personal learning environment where we are learning in the future, and the students today in institutions and behind them, and now moving into businesses where we're in charge of our own learning. We get to decide what is my next learning step. And AI and connectivism is helping us decide what is our personal learning environment. How do we learn best? Where do we learn best? How can we move forward with that? And how can we continue upskilling and reskilling until we are at our peak performing place? So part of what I do is I get to go in and I work with different companies and I work with different hospitals or entities, and I work with them on continuing to upskill and reskill and continuing to move their employee pieces forward so that these next groups don't outpace the groups that are already there. So how can we help lifelong learning ecosystems be created so that the ecosystems behind us don't outpace us? Okay, so AI-driven learning pathways and credentialing. So if you think about it, how can we make sure that the learning systems that are created are actually quality learning systems and not just AI craziness that are out there? So futuristically, remember we're in the futuristically area. In the future, personalized learning maps and based on goals and gaps will have to be created. So it's not just all willy-nilly the Wild West out there that, somebody at the hospital is just like, oh, well, I did all this crazy learning with AI. Who knows who put it out there? Because remember, AI and the internet is only as smart as we tell it to be. So there's going to have to be some kind of learning and employment records that stick with us, that blockchain digital credentialing, where we know what you learned and who you learned it from, and all of those things are for real and have some kind of background information. You can't just say, oh, I passed some random pie in the sky something. So somehow, some way, connectivism and AI is all going to have to back channel be credentialed at some point. How that works is up for debate and discussion, and lots of smart people are already working on these things. And it's going to be really interesting to see how different companies and different hospitals and different entities handle what they do. But eventually, when you go and you apply and you say, hey, I am an expert in project management, they're going to be able to scan something and it will say, oh yeah, look at that. You have your blockchain digital credential says you have done all of these things because your digital record will follow you. So mixed reality and AI equaling immersive learning. As we move forward, we have more and more immersive and role-playing labs and all of these things. This seemed very far-fetched when I first started working in it, and it has gotten less and less far-fetched for me. It's very, very real. I worked with a company probably, I don't know what, honey, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that we, when the goggles were just first coming out, now they're all over the place. But when they first came out, we were already on the cusp of it, and now we do it all the time. But we were working for a hospital, and we would do work. We worked in cybersecurity, and we worked with hospital executives, and we were building immersive learning. And what we would do is that was how we would build learning environments for these businesses. And we would get the floor plans from the construction groups, and then the executives could have different learning challenges in their own hospitals in the different glasses or whatever. And so they could, for example, you could go in and you're stuck on an elevator, give your elevator pitch, go. Well, that seems simple, right? Well, it's simple when you're on, on Canvas and there's no pressure and you like, okay, I'm going to pick on VoiceThread because I'm going to call Joey out. Joey has been making me learn VoiceThread. So, on VoiceThread, it's fine because there's no pressure. But suddenly, if you're immersed in that elevator there with the guy who looks like your CEO, and hey, now I have 2 minutes, I have to give my elevator pitch. That's some immersive learning. Like suddenly you feel like you're there, right? The same is true about a cybersecurity threat. If suddenly you're standing in your hospital and the lights start flashing and the alarms start going off and AI is there interacting, and as you do stuff, it's going to start playing and making you're reacting to how you're reacting in your piece, right? So it's giving you real-time feedback in that environment. And those are the things that we can do now, or we are looking at doing more of in education as AI and mixed reality come in together. And it's not just in hospitals. We're seeing this in businesses. We're seeing this in the military. We're seeing this all over as we move forward. I'm going to be honest, education and higher education, we're a little behind, but we're getting there. We're gonna catch up, but we are a little behind the corporate world. Okay, so what does this do for our trainers? What is our role, right? Because it's going to change what we do. We are no longer, we don't have our little desks. We're not standing at the front. This classroom looks a little different than that first picture I showed you, right? You can't really pick out in this picture who that trainer is or who that faculty member is or who that leader of that classroom is. And this is really more what that classroom should look like or what that training facility should look like. And this is what businesses, and this is the model that most education, whether it's in higher education or businesses or healthcare, this is what they're going to, whether it's on ground or hybrid or any of those kind of things. This is really what it's going to look like, or what it is moving towards looking like, where it's more of a learning architect instead of a lecturer. It's moving more to a mentorship where it's not, these are my ideas and you have to listen to them and you have to have the same ideas as me. Instead, here are all of the things. This is the goal of the class. I want to help you get there. Here, I want to help.
Just to jump in, Janelle, about exactly that. When we talk about the evolution of systems, we all heard about flipping the classroom, right? And problem-based learning. So this is just things that have just been getting us to where we are today, where it's not just the individual, but it's the group and everybody sharing the information. It's just interesting to see that It's not coming out of nowhere. This is not new from AI. It's just building on what we already had.
Right. It's just building up. And it's really thinking about, instead of keeping those two separate levels of I am here and you are here, I am the high and mighty person teaching and you are the student. It's really more, let me pull you up and make us equal so that we can learn together. And so that's really building that community of learners, is really more where it changes that role dynamic. Really digging into AI and connectivism is really all about that data-driven personalization, and prediction is really moving into what that slamming together of those two pieces. Because remember, connectivism is all about that connecting networks, right? So that personalization, and AI likes prediction. That's what it likes to do. So it's bringing those two pieces together. And so the learner analytics and the proactive intervention. How can I know If I see this learner and I see where the trend is, how can I help them before it's too late? If I see what their behaviors are and I see how they're acting and where they're going in that class, how can I help them before they fail that class? Right? If I see how that employee is performing, I see what that employee is doing, how can I help them succeed or reach that next level because I know that they're interested in that based on what they've done. The same is true with learner success, engagement, and attrition, providing customized content and pacing. Figuring out I might be faster at a course than Honey might be faster than I will be. Figuring out what motivates me versus what motivates Honey. Figuring out how to move me forward in my employee onboarding versus Honey. Onboarding and keeping someone engaged in at a company is one of the most expensive pieces of a company. So training somebody and then losing them is extremely important. They don't want to lose people, they want to keep them. So once we get them trained, we want to keep training them and keep that same person there. We'd rather move them forward than lose someone and have to train a new person. All right, the future of AI learning agents, one reason we love them is they are always on. People, whether they are training at a hospital, training in the military, training in a business, training at a higher institution, we all keep crazy hours. I don't know about you, but I like answering email like bright and early in the morning. Usually I'm at like 5 in the morning. I'm like, oh, let me respond to you. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't email this person that early. I have other people who email me at like 11:30. I'm like, oh my God, why are you emailing me so late? Right? We all keep different hours. The beauty of an AI powered agent is it doesn't care what time that person is. It doesn't care about time zones. It always works and it's personalized. I was on a call the other day and someone said, "Oh, did you name your chat, your AI?" I'm like, "Of course I did. Of course I named him." Right? And you end up talking to this person. And y'all, I argue with my little guy all the time. Like we fight. So they take on, he's like a coworker. So, but that is one of the things about a learning agent is it's always there. It comes up with the personalized content recommendations because it starts to learn and you can program it, you can work with it to work with you and with your learners, as well as that it's that real time skills gap where it's analyzing and providing feedback. And that's what's so important because in the business world and in healthcare and in all of these places, they don't have time. Time is money. And any time that we're like, oh, well, let's wait till the quarterly review and then we'll figure out what's wrong. And then we'll try and prescribe and figure out what kind of training we need to build. And then we'll wait 6 months and we'll build a training and we'll see if we can get something past budget. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to go, oh, well, if this is going to analyze it right now and as the problem is going, it's going to figure out what the problem is and train it and fix the problem. We're going to close the gap all within 1 week and we're not going to lose any money. Absolutely. Right. And so it's connecting and it's fixing all at the same time. It all sounds so great, right? So many shiny, wonderful things. No problems. Let's go and buy it. Perfect. Well, with every shiny thing on one side, you have the flip side. Before we can just get all excited and say connectivism, AI, we're down, that's what we're going to do, we have to slow down and we have to think about the other side of it, which is the ethical considerations. With everything that is good and wonderful, there are things that we have to kind of, proceed with caution. This is not a warning. This is an awakening. This is a, hey, we're gonna think and breathe before we just run into anything. With everything comes thought, right? So AI by itself can get a little crazy. So remember, AI is only as smart as what we make it. AI and connectivism, what is it? Where is it getting its information? Well, AI learns from the information that we give it. It's scouring hundreds and hundreds of different sources on the internet. And where did the internet get it from us, from human history, which good or bad has its own lifespan, good or bad, right? So it has bias and it has, blind spots and all of those things. So we have to be able to look through that and as humans use our own judgment. So
I'm
we
just going
have
to
to,
jump in. I shared with Janelle this week that I had a very an interesting conversation because, as you can imagine, running a school and having the different majors. So the computer information science major right now is in tremendous flux. And are there jobs available? And that's been a lot of the conversation that's going on in the field. And the chair of my department said that he's part of a lot of different groups on both sides of the coin of that, of where computer information science is going. Is it just going to be AI generating code and we're done and go home and all of that? But he says that there's a whole group of thinkers on this subject who really believe that there's going to be a tremendous need for software engineers coming up in the next 2 or 3 years. Tremendous, because as Janelle was just saying, AI has been learning from everything that humanity has produced up until this point. And AI came forward having learned on everything that was fed to it and came up with a model. And this model keeps on learning. But as we know, AI does some hallucinating. AI does some imagining. AI makes up things. And so now
Draws
AI
conclusions.
is learning from its own it's learning from those models that are incorrect, that have errors from what AI does. And it's just going to keep on spiraling and go exponential. And what he's saying is that they're going to need software engineers to go in and look and fix and do all those. So it's an interesting thing to think about that up until this point, it has learned from what humanity has produced. Now it's learning from what AI is producing over what humanity has produced. And that's something to think about as we move forward with this. So I love that Janelle's talking about that, because it's really something that we have to think about as we move forward in this and go into the next generations of AI.
Well, and we have to look at it, but so many people aren't looking at it. So then they are posting what AI has said. So now AI is seeing its own self and going, "Oh, look, someone posted that. It must be real." So it's just this cycle. But we have to go in and monitor, and we have to be smarter than AI. And remember that AI is a collaborative helper for lower level thinking skills. Remember that. So we're going to go in and make sure that the voices that come out of AI is really our voice, and what AI is producing is the base jumping off point. I argue, like I said, I argue with my AI, and then I make sure that what it's saying is I want it to say. AI will also try and make you make decisions, and you want to make sure that the decision that is being made is really your decision and not AI's decision. What's great is ask AI about ethics. Go in and ask it, and it'll come back and be like, oh my. And you can get into an ethical debate with AI. It's pretty fun. The other, if you really want to be scared, go ask AI about yourself. Find out all the things AI knows about you. That will make you wake up. But here's the thing: we are not the only ones having this ethical discussion. Every industry right now is having this ethical discussion. But we can't go, oh, well, for everyone's protection, we're going to limit the tools, and we're just not going to use AI. We're going to say, oh, you can only use this one, and we're just going to put ourselves in this little box, because guess what? That's like trying to chase a ball that's already rolling down a steep hill. They're already using the tools. They're going to come into our jobs or come into our institutions or come into our services already using all the tools, right? And so we're chasing after them, trying to enforce something that is impossible. So instead, we have to think about how we can become where it's human-centered and ethical and safe and cybersecurity wise, right? I want all our data protected. Trust me, I work with way too many white hats to not think about that. But where it's actually enforceable, because it has to be enforceable, or we're just putting stuff on paper. So right now, where not everybody's using it, yes, we can say, oh, we're only going to use this little box. But next time more people come in, and the more people that come in, and the more people, are we going to say, oh, really? Well, everyone can only use a Motorola cell phone, you know? For example, if I had said, everybody, when you come in, everybody go and put your cell phone in another room, all of you would have looked at me like I was crazy. If I had told you had to leave your cell phone, in another room, go lock it in the bathroom when you came to this lecture, y'all would have thought I was nuts. That's how the future generations are going to feel if we tell them you can't use your digital innovation when you come to university, or when you come to work, because like for my kids, AI, like the AI that they named on my computer, like he's just like a part of their daily life. And so if we just like, oh, by the way, when you go to college, you can't talk to him anymore. It's like, what? I can't talk to my brother? What are you talking about? So we have to find ethics and rules and pieces that work. Okay, so the future is not waiting. It's coming. It's here. We have to keep moving faster because we have to be a part of shaping it, or it's going to get shaped in a way that we probably won't like. Okay, it's all around you. It's already happening. You are already a part of connectivism. If you have liked something or if you have, been a part of, watched a YouTube or any of those things, you are already part of connectivism. The paradigm shift is already happening. If you think about how people really learn today, they're already connecting. There is a YouTube guy out there right now who he teaches different people how to change a tire, how to tie your tie, how to do who that is connectivism. So it's already here. Everybody is using connectivism. We are just needing to move forward from all of these different places and accept that connectivism is where we are in education. So here's the exciting part. It's not that hard because you're really already a part of this movement and you've already started, you're already connecting, you're already using AI, whether you like it or not. You don't know it. When I made this PowerPoint, it kept asking me, do you want me to design this for you? Here, click here for your design helper. Right? That's AI. PowerPoint wants to design everything for me. Everywhere you go, like AI like pops up and do you want me to grocery shop for you? Do you want me to do this for you? Like it's not just Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever anymore. It's Word has the little AI guy. So I mean, Amazon tries to tell me what it wants to buy. I think it's a little scary when I talk to my husband and then something comes up on Amazon that's like, hey, I know you're interested in this. And I'm like, did you hear me? I mean, that's a little creepy, but it's already working in our society. So, how can we take what we do every day in our everyday skills? Like, I would say, how can I take what I do on a Saturday, like in my everyday life, and turn it into a usable skill that I can help myself in my resume on a Monday so that it makes me more marketable? So, the things you do every day, right? Our daily habits, messaging, chatting, posting, liking, asking for help in online communities, joining different things, watching YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, podcasts. We do all those things, right? All right. So these are professional skills that companies, and this is ways that they work for how they all connect. So we can turn our connections into professional impacts. So for when you're sharing and you're posting resources, you're really disseminating knowledge. And companies and businesses and health hospitals, that's something they need help with. That's an area so that's a direct result that you can say, hey, I know how to do that. I'm an expert at hosts and resources. And, a lot of places need that. Collaboration, that's team innovation. Okay. So, for example, I was at a conference and there was a group of people and they had to find a place to host a dinner for 25 executives. And they were the young guys on the team. And so, guess what? They got elected to try and find a place. They were in a city they had never been, no idea what to do. They just knew had to host a fancy dinner. Back in the day when I first started and I was the young person on the totem pole, I'd go to the hotel person and be like, oh my gosh, help me find a place, right? You know what they did? They pulled out their phone and asked ChatGPT, hey, where do we go? This is the hotel we're at. This is the city. Here's our budget. Help us find a place. ChatGPT found him a place right away. Okay. It even helped him make reservations. So the world is changing, but they took an everyday habit and they turned it into a powerful professional skill. So you just have to start reinventing, start thinking of the same behavior, but with a new intent to make it a strategy to amplify who you are as a professional. All right. So takeaways to really think about that we are not looking at AI as a replacement, but an enhancement for human connection. Connectivism offers a model for integrating intentionally. So the idea is that you really want to connect on purpose, and then that ethics must lead the way, that it has to be a human-centered on purpose, that's we've got to start thinking that way or we're going to get left behind there, and that everyday connection habits can be a powerful professional innovation.
This is a fast moving bullet train. We've got to just hold on and maintain the integrity and the ethics of what we are doing, despite the fact that we are flying by the seat of our pants on this.
I'm going to move the slide to our little contact information, and then I'm going to take it off screen share so we can have a discussion if anybody has any. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything?
I was just going to jump in and just talk about the passage of time and how the world has changed. Years ago, I was working at a large academic medical center, and at the end of the program, we would do comprehensive examinations for our students, and they had to study for months to prepare for these comps. And we had asked a question to one of our students, and he said, I'd have to check on Google. And we thought he was insane. Like, you're supposed to know that. You're supposed to come into this is where you actually tell us. But the truth is that medicine and every field works off the information that's in your hand. And so it's a very interesting thing to think about this. Back in the day when he said that to us, we laughed and we thought, no, you should have been studying this for the last 4 months. But turns out, in the previous year before that, but it turns out that we are all connected and working together with AI, and it's an interesting paradigm. Thank you all for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure
Thank
to
you
meet
so
with you all
much.